Thanks.
And let's head to the USGS right now in Golden, where one of the scientists, Harley Benz, is talking with reporters right now. Let's hear what he has to say.
Model and estimate impact assessments from these kinds of earthquakes. And then we also have Dr. Tony Crone, a geologist who's very familiar with many of the seismic source zones around the country. And so to begin with these earthquakes, and I'll start with the Colorado sequence. We've had a swarm of earthquakes that have occurred over the last 24 hours in southern Colorado, about 15 miles southeast or southwest of Trinidad, Colorado. There's been more than a dozen earthquakes in the swarm. The largest was a magnitude 5.3 at 11:46 p.m. Mountain Time. There have been notable, widely felt earthquakes in that swarm. There was a 4.6 and also 3.9 in that swarm. The thing to note about the southern Colorado sequence, it's an area where we've had swarm activity before. Coincidentally, on August 22nd, 2001, we had a swarm of earthquakes in the same area of southern Colorado. The largest in that sequence was about a magnitude 4.6, and the sequence lasted for several weeks. We have people now being deployed to southern Colorado to add more dense instrumentation to the area so we can get more precise earthquake locations within this swarm. The magnitude 5.3 and the aftershocks are all consistent with the geology and tectonics of southern Colorado. The earthquakes are occurring on some normal faults. This is very consistent with what we expect in terms of the style of faulting based on the geology and past earthquake history. So we have people there monitoring the swarm. We're calling that a swarm because we tend to see these things in this area. They tend to be a number of earthquakes, dozens of earthquakes or more, spread over a series of several weeks, and then they tend to die off. But the 5.3 is the largest that we've seen in this region, and the 5.3 in Colorado is the largest earthquakes in the last 44 years in Colorado. Moving on to Virginia, we had, as I said earlier, we had a magnitude 5.8 earthquake in what's known as the Central Virginia seismic zone, roughly 15 miles west of what city? I just lost my train. Richmond, sorry, I was thinking of Charlotte, but no, Richmond. So about 15 miles from Richmond, we had a magnitude 5.8 earthquake. It's in a well-known seismic zone known as the Central Virginia seismic zone. What to note about this earthquake in the context of past earthquakes in this area is that this is unusually large for this seismic zone. The largest earthquake in that seismic zone that has been measured is in the upper magnitude 4 range. So this earthquake is significantly larger, roughly 1 magnitude unit larger. But large earthquakes in the east of this type, roughly magnitude 5.8, 5.9, have been observed in Virginia in 1897, about 150 miles west of where this earthquake occurred in Giles County. There was an earthquake of about magnitude 5.9, and that was not based on instrumental recordings, but on damage in the epicentral area and how far away the earthquake was felt, basically what's called macroseismic information. So, but we know it was roughly about the same as this earthquake. So, putting it in perspective, these earthquakes occur relatively close in time, but earthquakes in both of these areas, in central Virginia and southern Colorado, are not unexpected, and the details on these earthquakes in terms of style of faulting are consistent with what we know about the geology and geophysics. So I think at this time what I'll do is have Dr. Tony Crone talk a little bit about the seismic source zones of the eastern U.S.
And again, that was Harley Benz with the USGS talking about the earthquakes here in southwestern Colorado and also in Virginia. He said the one in southern Colorado was the largest. It was a 5.3 magnitude. It was the largest in 44 years.
Yeah, and it's amazing to hear him say in both areas, East Coast and here, it's not that unexpected, but even the one on the East Coast, they haven't seen something like that, he said, since 1897. Wow. So it's amazing.
He hasn't talked about aftershocks yet, but I'm sure we'll get an update pretty soon.